Hello again, I am Blunty. The Sony PSVR2 accessory has been a complete and utter failure, hasn't it? Well, that's perhaps a little bit hyperbolic, but as a product, I've heard from a couple of people I trust that the user experience is decent at least, especially compared to the instantly outdated original version of the PSVR and its catastrophically crappy Wiimote knockoff controllers. Oh my god, they were so terrible. But it's also fair to say that the PSVR 2 isn't selling well. It's not being talked about much, in fact, fractionally as much as the MetaQuest 3 or Apple Vision Pro are when it comes to the VR space and reporting and stuff. Hell, even the Pico headsets, a brand only people already heavily invested in VR have ever even heard of, gets more VR press than the PSVR 2 does these days. However, according to Bloomberg technology reporter Takashi Mochizuki, it's selling so badly at a rate so vastly lower than Sony predicted that, and I quote the headline, Sony hits pause on PSVR 2 production as unsold inventory piles up. $550 accessory has suffered from a lack of compelling content. Sony testing PC compatibility to expand gadgets' appeal. Now, let's frame up my personal bias on all of this, because I do have a bias, especially when it comes to Sony stuff. I like my PlayStation 5. I adore several of the system exclusives it has, but they are the only reason I need a PS5. And yes, I do resent system exclusives forcing people to pay for expensive hardware to play arbitrarily brand-locked content, and that's the world we live in. It's not changing, so I've got to compromise, don't I? If I want to play the games I want to play, compromise time. I don't like it, but I put up with it. I will whine about it, though. But as much as I like my PlayStation 5 and its fantastic games, Sony as a company, I don't like them much. They're so consumer hostile so much of the time. They're petty, they're greedy, and aside from that generality, I have personally been mistreated by them directly as a content creator. And I've told that story before, no time for it today, but they were shitty to me once upon a time, and I'm still a little bit pissy about it today because it was such an incredibly petty thing to do. So, in that framework, it's often with some personal glee I like to examine their failings in the marketplace. A little Schadenfreude, as the Germans would say. God, I love hyper-specific, emotionally descriptive German words. They are so good at that. However, this time around, this specific report isn't something I'm going to gloat about smugly with a smirk on my face, because chances are it's complete horse plop. As pointed out by this Reddit poster, Takashi has had a long history already of, well, let's not call him a lying, clickbaiting fraud of a reporter, but instead say misreported when it comes to Sony several times. The same author who claimed Sony had boosted PlayStation 5's launch numbers before asserting weeks ahead of launch that Sony had slashed PlayStation 5's production numbers, Sony issued a response denying this report. Same author who said that Sony had planned to end PlayStation 4 production, but changed their mind because Sony was having difficulty producing PlayStation 5s. The report was faulty and Sony had no intention of immediately ending PlayStation 4 production, and indeed they didn't, and that's not how things generally work when a new console comes out. They keep making the old one for quite some time because it's a cheap alternative, and there's a lot of cross-generational games still available. So reporting that lie was not only a lie, but a stupid lie. He repeated the same trick with PlayStation VR 2, claiming that Sony had increased their expectations for the device before announcing weeks ahead of launch that pre-orders were disappointing and Sony had slashed estimates. Sony, once again, had to come out and refute this report, officially denying it. Same author who claimed PlayStation VR 2's first month's sales were less than half of what they turned out to be in reality. I'm betting there are many more examples, and not just all about Sony either, but you get the point, right? For whatever motivation he might have, clickbait, Takashi simply cannot be trusted to report on Sony stuff. He lies all of the time. He's a liar. Sorry, Bloomberg lawyers, not a liar. Misreporter. Accidental. Got the facts wrong. Did not deliberately lie and mislead just for the sake of clicks and advertising dollars. Companies like Sony don't usually even acknowledge reporting like this. The rumor mill just churns way too fast to even bother denying everything. So, when they voluntarily come forward to specifically deny a particular report, you know what's up. It's a level of crap that even Sony won't let slide. That's something. And they've done it multiple times to drivel Takashi has published under the once respectable flag of Bloomberg, so that tells you a lot too. All of that said, it's very clear that the PlayStation VR2 isn't doing well. Sony have refused to publish any sales numbers for it for a long time now, which is always a red flag. Companies like Sony love to brag about how many millions of things they've sold. They're constantly doing it. Sony loves to talk about how many PlayStations are in people's homes because the PlayStation, consoles sell really well. They love pointing that out. Look how popular we are. But not this device. This gets silenced. PlayStation VR 2? What? Never heard of it. And as any owner, or at least any honest owner, will tell you, the software library available to the PlayStation VR 2 is sparse at best. Mid-last year, Sony themselves even told us they don't really care that much about pushing the PSVR 2 forward in any meaningful way. It's just not a priority. It's still important, because they don't want to make people who, spent the money feel like idiots for spending the money. But frankly, underneath the PR code, that's... You don't expect much from it. It's kind of been a failure to us. We don't really care about it. We don't want to invest too much more time and effort into it because it's just not doing well. It doesn't seem worth our time. And most recently, there's been heavy rumblings about an unprecedented move of Sony making some kind of official way to use the PlayStation VR 2 hardware for PC VR, which I am all for. And in fact, I championed this very thing before it even launched, because it'd be a great way to provide more value to the suckers who purchased it, but even more, stop the thing becoming a hunk of e-waste quite so quickly. It's one of my favorite things about the Quest 3. I really don't like Meta as a company either, but the Quest 3 is a good product and very flexible, standalone, PC VR, all that kind of stuff. It works great. The unofficial way to use PSVR 2 on PC, by the way, is still a work in progress. It's been very tricky, apparently, but there is still progress happening, so fingers crossed on that if Sony's solution turns out to be very, very Sony. So, yeah, when you see this headline, and you are going to see this headline a lot over the next 24 hours, I predict. I've already seen it re-reported a few times just while preparing this video. No need to get either all gloaty about it as yet another Sony failure of an accessory hardware thing, or for you Sony fanboys, you don't need to bother about getting hyper defensive about it, because chances are it's complete made up crap. I mean, it could be true. It would make sense if it's true. If someone more reliable reported it, I'd be ready to believe it a bit easier. But this guy? This Bloomberg guy? And anyone re-reporting using him as a source? No, man. You can't trust those folk. He's a liar. I mean, he's a misreporter. Thanks for watching. I am Blunty. I'll catch you next time. Thank you as always to the patrons scrolling up above there, whose above and beyond support and generosity is very, very not Sony. I think did that metaphor work? It's a bit squidgy, that one. I'll try better next time.